Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I will be going over the entire character roster of Genshin Impact and doing a tier list, my very first tier list on this channel, and basically talking about what kind of characters do I regret pulling in the past 4 years of Genshin Impact. This includes all the 5-star characters that I have pulled for since the game's launch, and I'll be talking about my decision choices on some of these character banners and why I decided to pull for them or didn't pull for them and kind of how I feel about them now. In the tiers that I have listed, the top one is going to be strong / love, which are characters that I either pulled multiple times because I really like them as a character or pulled them multiple times because of how strong they are. The next one below is good to have, which are basically characters that I pulled once, but I really invested them heavily, even though I didn't really invest them into getting multiple copies of them. I just invested them really heavily because they're a really good character. And the middle one is used on occasion. These are characters that I kind of go back to sometimes, depending on like if I want to like play a different character or if I want to change it up sometimes. And the one below that is regret pulling, which are characters that I don't ever go back to, I don't play anymore. And when thinking back at when I did pull them, I kind of regret pulling them in the first place, now knowing that I wasn't really going to enjoy them at all. So let's get started with the characters that I never pulled for, which are basically easy. These are characters that I was just never interested at all. I never pulled any of the new characters from Nadlin because I wasn't really interested in any of them. The only other character that I did enjoy from the Nadlin line is Shalonen, which I'm gonna put good to have because I only pulled one copy of her. I didn't really want multiple copies of her. I wasn't really interested in her constellations, but her kit is very simple, very easy to use, and I love just how easy of a buff that you can give to your team, which is a very valuable buff in increasing the resistance of the enemies, which I think is just very good, very simple, and very universal. The only thing I think draws back on Shalonen is the fact that she's Geo. Doesn't really add that much universal aspect compared to what Geo characters can use, but still very good that like she still values on getting multiple different elemental characters in your team in order to get the most effect out of her buff. Next, I'm gonna pick Albedo. I'm gonna put regret pulling. I only pulled him once when he came out during Dragon Spine. Main reasons because does AoE geo damage, and that's really all he does. Construct geo damage, and there really isn't anything unique or valuable that he does except for like his elevator elemental skill, which is kind of cool, but again, in the long run there really isn't crazy about him or anything that you would go back to for him on occasion. Next, Alhaitham, I'm gonna put strong / love, mainly in the love aspect because I love his character. I think he's really cool, even though yes, he is very similar to Kaching in a lot of aspects, but I think his attack animations, his damage as well, and how it coordinates with like a lot of different elemental reactions relating to Dendro. I don't know, I just think he's a really fun, cool character. Next, Ito. I think his character is cool, but I would put regret pulling mainly because like kind of like similar in some ways towards Albedo, he does really good crazy AoE geo damage. I just think like the way that he functions kind of is sort of annoying, where you have to hold charge attack in order to do the swings with his claymore. I just think like they could have done a lot more better with him if it was much faster or more easy to use instead of like having to like stack up stacks when using his elemental skill, or either makes his attack more AoE. I think he's a good character, but for me personally, I wouldn't really go back to that kind of character. Next, Arlecchino. She is a really good pyro character, but the thing is, for me, I don't really think playing pyro as the main TPS isn't fun to me. In the beginning of the game, when like people valued vape or melt, definitely yes. When like Diluc was first introduced and then Hu Tao was first introduced, like that was like the main source of like dealing the most damage that you can, and Arlecchino definitely sort of continue that. As a character, she's great, but in terms of gameplay, it's sort of basic, I would say. You just press E, hold your charge, and then just do normal attacks and like do elemental reactions with them, which is basically the same with a lot of characters on this list. But with her, it definitely like, you know, didn't really bring anything new. But there is one counterpoint that I keep thinking of, is that like in her case compared to like the other pyro main DPSs on this list, I think she is easier to use, and I do sometimes go back to her if I do want to play a main TPS pyro. So I was gonna put regret pulling, but I think I would put her on unification because I do go back to her when I definitely want to use Pyro as like my main character. And if I have to choose between Diluc, Hutao, Yoimiya, Klee, I would definitely choose Arlecchino. And based on character, I definitely prefer her. Next, Baizhu. I would definitely put good to have because in my opinion, there really isn't any other Dendro character that you could potentially use as like an off-field Dendro character, even though he's not that great in that aspect. He is definitely usable until, even though we could eventually get another character that's specialized in that. And also he's a healer. There really isn't that much healers where compared to Baishu, you could definitely use him for his Dendro capability. And when talking about Baishu, yes, I know people may say, oh well, what about Emily? I didn't really pull Emily because she specializes in burning. I didn't really like that in a lot of other Dendro related reactions instead of specializing specifically with Dendro and Pyro. Even though yes, it's good that they are increasing the valuable of Virgin and Burning, I just don't think that really interests me in pulling for that kind of kit. So that's why I never really pulled for Emily. Next, Chirori. I would put regret pulling. The main thing she does is dealing damage from her skill and burst, and she mainly buffs Geo, which really doesn't really do much for a lot of other characters. Next, Clorin, I would put strong because she definitely surprised me when she came out of how strong she was as C0. I was actually going to C6 her, but seeing how crazy good she was, because I gave her a really good set. And when I tested her in the Abyss, it's definitely is similar to like a C6 character. Even though like, yes, it may not be the exact power level, but like how close it was and how much damage she dealt in like a couple of seconds was actually very shocking because I thought she was gonna be like decent, like she can deal damage, but I didn't realize like how crazy good damage she was. Yes, you can say like I gave her a really good build. I do that with a lot of other characters, but just seeing how good she was at C0, it made me not want to pull for C6, which I think in that aspect, I think deserves, you know, credit on its own. Sino, look, I like Sino as a character, I really do. I will put regret pulling because my god, it's so annoying when the main thing you get out of his kit only comes out from his elemental burst, and when you try to use his elemental burst, it sucks because you gotta have a lot of energy, and if you want to use him consistently, you always have to keep his elemental burst fully charged all the time if you want to do that. But considering that his elemental skill doesn't give him jack for energy particles, I just think it's really not that good. I really like him as a character, but just knowing like how consistent you have to be and how much energy recharge you have to have in order to do that kind of playstyle, it annoys me, and because of that, I would definitely put in regret pulling. Deha, honestly, if I want to use an AoE character that sometimes procs Pyro, I would definitely put her because she is very useful in some of those aspects in terms of like burning or anything related to Pyro where you definitely want a character like that. In my personal opinion, it was very disappointing like how Hoyoverse handled her kit, but I really love her as a character and I think her skill is kind of usable. It just sucks that her elemental burst is pointless and useless. For a lot of people, it will put regret pulling, but for me, I would put occasion because I definitely do use her sometimes on occasion as like the fourth slot, but mainly because of her off-field skill Pyro attack. Diluc, for me, is love because in the beginning of the game, he was like the guy I really wanted to get. And if you look at my build now, you damn no, I wanted to give this guy as much power as I can give him. For me, I will put strong and love, but as curse things stand, I will put use occasionally because I don't really use him that much compared to other characters that are available to me. In my heart, he's in the first, but in reality of things, I use him on occasion sometimes. Eula, I love her as a character. I C6'd her, I give her signature, I really give her a good build, but I use her on occasion sometimes because she's basically the only damage dealing character except for Razor. So I would put Eula at use occasionally. Verena, strong because she's a really good support. I only pulled one copy of her, but she is a really good hydro support. She gives you a crazy damage buff and gives you pretty good off-field hydro application. So because of that, she is definitely in the strong, not just because she's an Archon, but also of what she provides to your team. Ganyu, I C6'd her, so I would put occasion because I really love her as a character, very similar to Eula. I just think like It sucks that like the main strong thing she has is her charge attack. Even though yes, her elemental burst is very useful, I just think like the main bulk and bread of her kit is her charge attack, and that's kind of not interesting or fun to play sometimes. I would put regret pulling for Hu Tao. Yes, I know she's a very strong character. I just think her gameplay sucks. When I pulled Hu Tao, I thought she was gonna be, oh, she's gonna be similar to Xiao, because Xiao does, you know, dashes with his elemental skill, and Hu Tao does dashes with her charge attack. But when you do that into play, it feels very slow, and like the way you do it faster is you have to jump castle, and I think because you have to do an extra step instead of having to do it the basic way to make it better, I think her elemental burst is cool. I think that's like the main cool thing about her kit, but her elemental skill is boring. I don't really like her. It feels slow. I just put regret pulling. Jean, I used to use a lot in the beginning, but because of how things are now with a lot of characters, I would not put her any here. But because she is a standard 5-star and I only got her because I lost 50/50s, I will put her in never pulled for. Kazuha, definitely good to have, not strong slash love, even though in the past I definitely advocated for him. The main reason is because I like how you could control the usability of his AoE in effectively using his crowd control however you want, because that was definitely one thing I didn't like about the other anime characters, specifically Venti, how like you have to position yourself on how you want the burst to land on the field, whereas with Kazuha you could definitely position yourself however you want based on the positionings of the enemies and easily determine where you want to crowd control your enemies towards. I think that for me is definitely a good ability for me specifically. I know there are a lot of people that rather use characters like Venti and just proc the burst and everyone goes towards his vacuum burst, but for me I rather have control of where I want the enemies to be positioned, even though you can't crowd control all the enemies. I just think it feels very nice to like have some control of where you want the enemies to be positioned. I'll put regret pulling because the only thing you use her is for her elemental burst. Her skill is nice, but like the main thing is her burst. Ayato, strong slash love. Yes, I know he's not the greatest Hydra character, but goddamn, I love his character. I think his gameplay is slick, is nice, it's simple, very beautiful animations on his skill, and specifically his elemental burst, my god. And most importantly, I see 6th. So what you gonna do? Kaching, put never pull because I really didn't use her at all anymore. Klee, I would put regret pulling because in the beginning, yes, I think she was a very interesting character, but mainly because she was like the second 5-star that we were getting, so it was very exciting at the time. But how things stand now, she really isn't that usable. Lenny, I never pulled for him. Mona, if I want to specifically increase the damage of a character's burst, she is definitely very good in that. I wouldn't put her in never pulled. I would put her in use occasion because I definitely, one, love her character, one of my first favorite characters in the beginning of the game. I just think that her supportability is niche, but for me I would put her in least use occasion. Nahida, strong because she's a very good dendro character, very easy to apply. Yes, it can be annoying when you need to hold the skill and scan all the enemies, but when you get that done, that's basically all you need to do. If you want to proc her burst, you can, but you don't have to. Just use her skill, put the dendro mark on all the enemies, and just let it proc dendro when you attack them. Feels nice, very good function, very good dendro application, and overall a very good dendro character. Navia, I'll put occasion because a lot of these characters I really like. I like Navia, even though she is a Geo character. I think she is a very good, strong Geo character and very easier to use compared to like someone like Ito, because she does have that AoE and her shotgun just hits hard. Neverlet, strong and love. I love him as a character. I think he's super strong. Heck, I'm willing to say that he is the strongest C6 character out of all the characters in the game because he's so simple, he's easy to use, and when you spawn the droplets from his skill or elemental burst or all together and just let him deal his Hydra beam, it's super strong, very easy to use. He is like the best Hydra character in the entire game, no doubt about it. Nilu, never pulled for her. She is good in certain aspects in relation to Bloom, but for me, I never really pulled for her, so I'm not going to talk about her. Chi-Chi, never really played her. Raiden, strong slash love. I think she's a very good character in terms of utilizing your elemental burst, but other than that, there's really all she has to it, except for her elemental skill, but I don't think you're mainly using her for her elemental skill, unless you're using her specifically for bloom related reactions. But for me, I see 6-star and the only 5-star character out of all the characters I see 6 to ever R5 her weapon, because I very love her character. Kokomi, I don't use her, but I would definitely say if there's a team that I need like a hydro healer, I would put good to have. But for personally, I would refund the pulls that I spent for her because I just don't ever use her. There's really no team that I will play that I will consider using Kokomi. Next, Shinha. Personally, because this is my personal list, I will put in love because I definitely love her character design. I think she's one of the most beautiful designed characters of the entire game. She's just a really good hot waifu, and because of that, I definitely pulled her C2. Even though, yes, I don't really use a lot of the times the crowd characters here, like Ganyu and Aika. But when a time comes with a crowd character that I do enjoy, where I could definitely pair them with Shinha, I definitely would. Sigwin, never really pulled for her. Tartaglia, definitely up there. One of my first mains in the entire game. When he came out, I was so excited for him. I would definitely say that like when he came out, when his banner was gonna drop, that was like the most excited I was for any character in the entire game. So because of that and how much nostalgia every time I think back to that time in 2020, I will have to have him on my top list. I literally have a banner right behind this monitor of Tartaglia, so I have to have him on my top list. Next, Tighnari. I think he's a good character for a specific role. I think he does provide some usability. In the beginning, I just wanted to play Dendro, and like there really wasn't any other Dendro character, but as things stand now, I don't ever go back to him, so I will put him in regret pulling. Venti, interesting story with Venti. I never really pulled him in the beginning or ever on his reruns. I only pulled him, I forgot what banner it was, but I think it was around Sumero time that I decided, okay, let me get Venti. And he is very easy to use, very simple, just proc his burst and just let his burst do all the work. Very easy to build. You don't even need to build him at all. So for that, I would definitely put him in good to have, not strong / love. Actually, now thinking about it, he is that so simple to build. I would put him strong because just on how easy he is to build, because you don't need to build him at all. You just literally give him energy recharge, elemental mastery. That's it. That's really it. So because of that, I would put him in strong. Even though I never pulled him or played him in like the first 2 years of Genshin Impact. Wanderer, regret pulling. Very cool animations, but as an Anemo DPS character, he's not really interesting at all. Just cool to play, but like, would I ever pull him again? Not really. Risley, I don't want to put him in occasion because of it's the same list as Ganyu and Eula. If I were to use any Cryo on fielder, it would definitely be Risley. It's just like, it sucks that like how he functions when we're like counterparts on how other supports work in conjunction with his kit. It's just that I would love to use him with Bennett, but like you kind of have to like perfect the timing with him in terms of his healing, and when Wesley consumes his HP, it's confusing, but works when you time it right. I don't know, he can be strong in some aspects, but I will put him in occasion because I would definitely use him with Shinha, and I love his character design, so for that I would put him in occasion. Zhao, strong / love, mainly in the love aspect because I definitely love his character design. A lot of the stuff that I do play involves him because I love his design, I love his plunging attack animations, I love his elemental burst animation. I C6'd him, R5'd his weapon if I'm not mistaken, or close to R5 because his weapon is a standard banner weapon. If I were to make a list of the top characters that I love, he would definitely be in my top 3. And also because I have him C6, his C6 is super fun. Never gets old every single time I use it, especially against like mobs or even bosses. It's just very cool to use. Just sucks that like you have to have multiple enemies to get the most use out of him. But other than that, very cool character, near and dear to my heart. Yay Miko, he does provide good off-field electro damage and application. I just think certain situations, yes, so I'll put it in occasion. Genshin. I was gonna say regret pulling, but like for me, definitely at least put her in occasion. Yelan, strong slash love. I don't use Singcho. I never give a about Singcho. To basically have a waifu that does the same thing as Singcho, a little bit less better, but definitely deals the damage. And very, very beautiful waifu design. I would definitely put her in my top list. Yoimiya, would put regret pulling because like I would never go back to her. Even if I wanted to play Pyro, I will give her that she is very simple to use, but I think is not as better compared to like someone like Arlecchino. I just think her burst is kind of useless, even though it can be useful, but like personally it doesn't really do anything, even for other characters. And Zhongli, strong slash love, the most easy and most universal thing, he provides a shield, is unbreakable. Yes, there is content in the game that definitely can break a shield, but like compared to any other character, he provides the strongest shield in the game. Universal in a lot of teams, just a very good support overall. His burst can definitely be usable in certain situations when you want to petrify enemies for like a couple of seconds and you want to reset your rotation, because I definitely have those moments where like I'm doing a certain rotation, but like let's say an enemy like moves or like I get hit or a cooldown of an ability goes down and I want to reset the rotation. His elemental burst is good in that aspect of like petrifying enemies and basically either reposition or reset myself to do that same rotation again. I just think that's a very good supportive ability that he has that you could definitely use to your advantage. But most importantly, his unbreakable shield is very, very good and easy to use. Hi, just one quick edit. I just realized that the list that I used was actually missing one character, and it's actually the character that I probably has invested and built a lot compared to any other character on this list, and that is Cloud Retainer, my favorite waifu of the entire game. But basically, to put in short, that she is in strong slash love because I love her as a character. I C6'd her and gave her my best crit value pieces of any other artifact that I currently own. And that is my regret list of Genshin Impact. Overall, I think there are a lot of characters that I do regret pulling. Mainly characters that I only pulled once and never really pulled again. The only other character that I did pull multiple times on my regret pulling was Yoimiya, because I definitely did pull for C2, but that was during the time when like 2.0 was out, everything was like exciting, the new region that we haven't gotten in like a long time. So I was definitely caught in the hype of that, but personally, Yoimiya is just a character I would never go back to. And yeah, that is my regret tier list of who I pulled in the entirety of Genshin. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments of what characters you guys regret pulling that you played in Genshin Impact. If you want to see more content like this, then definitely subscribe to the channel. It would definitely help me out a lot. And leave a like on the video to support it. That's it for today, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.